We heard you. 9 years of Bring Back the Snack Wrap, and you've won. But maybe you should have asked for more. Say hello to the Hot Honey Snack Wrap. Now you've really won. Go to McDonald's and get it while you can.
What's going on, everyone? It is Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks, your ultimate rock community podcast. Hope everyone's staying warm and everyone's doing okay. Everyone's getting ready for the holidays. This is episode 1 of the 12 Days of Christmas, which we're going to be doing throughout the holidays. 12 topics, 12 different fun topics, kind of getting away from the what's wrong with rock and roll these days and just kind of having a little bit of holiday fun. A lot of episodes, a lot of shows that I've wanted to do for a while that I kind of postpone. So we're going to try to get to all those from the 23rd of December through, I think, the 3rd of January. So that'll give us a good 12 days of different topics each day. Hope you enjoy it. Always love the feedback. Today's guest is a repeat offender, a repeat guest, who we did a Richie Kotchen show prior and a Blackberry Smoke dedication show as well. All the way from Kansas, off the beaten path of the Yellow Brick Road, we have Crash Crafton. What's going on, Crash?
Very little, just staying in out of the cold.
Yeah, you and me both. It has warmed up a bit here lately, but it does feel like winter has already settled in, and we're in here now, digging in for the next few months.
Yeah, yeehaw.
Yeehaw, that's right. So, getting right into the topic, man, Blackberry Smoke. We did the show, I think, back in September. We did a show just dedicated to how awesome Blackberry Smoke is. And I've seen them live 4 times over the past year in 2019. I saw them twice in March, I want to say late February, early March, with the band Ida May, husband and wife outfit out of the UK through Nashville. Awesome blues-based band, Delta blues-based band, just incredible. And this was 2 of the shows on the acoustic tour that they did. I made mention, I think in the previous show and on other episodes, when I just closed my eyes during the concert and it sounded absolutely perfect, like it was exactly on the album. The thing that made it so great was it was so simple, but it sounded perfect. And it, playing simple stuff or simple arrangements or whatever isn't always the easiest thing either, especially when you make it sound as good as Blackberry Smoke does. The third time I saw them was with the Tedeschi Trucks band, and another band out of, I believe, Georgia is Shovels and Rope. I saw them at a show out here west of Chicago. Put on a fabulous show, another fantastic live performance. And then the last time I saw them was back in September, was with the record company at the House of Blues. So maybe we did the show back in August, I want to say. But nevertheless, one of the top live acts right now, active bands over the past decade, just continue to put out great music, continue to do awesome things in concert, always play a different show. I have yet to see the same show performed live by Blackberry Smoke. And this live album here, this homecoming record, which is 2 nights at the Tabernacle, is essentially a live greatest hits or pretty close to it. And you really get a good vibe of what their performance is like. They also have a DVD as well for these shows. I have not seen the DVD. I've only listened to the CD at this point. But again, just a great live act, great music, great songs.
I couldn't have said it any better. I agree. Whereas I'm different. I haven't got the CD yet, but I've watched the film.
Right.
So
Now,
How can you listen to stuff?
like I made mention, the great thing about Blackberry Smoke is I don't think there's ever been the same live performance 2 nights in a row, or I mean, I don't even know if they do the same performance any night. I mean, there might be some similarities, it might be close, but it's always different. And I really appreciate that, because we've all seen bands that play the same set list, play the same tunes, the same mannerisms, the same fake, what do you call it? The fake
Banter.
Yes, banter.
Between song banter.
Yeah. So, and YouTube, of course, exposes that now, because you'll look, you'll just see them in Chicago, and then you'll look up, at their St. Louis show or wherever, and you'll be like, well, wait a minute, he said the same thing 2 nights ago when I saw him. So it kind of loses a little bit of that. I think back in the day when you didn't have social media and you didn't have the outlets that you have now, you were able to believe more into the spontaneity, which I think was the word I was looking for, in a band's performance.
Yeah, they pulled back the curtain with this whole social media stuff.
Right. Which kind of makes me want to stay off of it. I don't go on set lists anymore. I don't want to know what the set list is going to be. I want to be surprised. I don't, look for live performances on YouTube like I used to, unless it's like an older tour, or it's like a band that's like in the UK that I know is never going to come here, or very unlikely they're going to come here. But I really try to stay off of that, and I've really learned to enjoy the show more the less social media I look at in regards to a band's performance, and putting the phone away. I used to take pictures at shows. Now I allow myself maybe 5 or 6 pictures. I don't take any video anymore. And I find that I enjoy the show way more. I live more in the moment when I'm at the concert than I did previously.
Yeah. I miss those days of just going for the show.
Right.
And, not having to document it, or having a bunch of people around you shoving phones in your face trying to document it.
It is a frustrating experience when the band goes on for the first song, whatever band it is, it doesn't matter. And, every phone in the room goes up in front of you. And basically, you're watching the band on stage, and you're watching all these screens just record what they're doing. And I guarantee you 9 out of these 10 people who are recording the show are never going to watch that video. They're never going to pull that up on their phone, because guess what? I never did. I recorded stuff at shows, and I never watched it. I never watched what I recorded. And then when 6 months later, I'd be taking pictures, and it would say out of memory, must delete files. And those were always the first ones I would delete, because they took up the biggest room, they took up the most memory. So I don't know. The Rancateurs, who I took my son to see over the summer, made everybody put a phone in a little, I don't want to say container, but like a bag.
Like a pouch thing?
Yeah. And it made for so much more of a better performance. The crowd was so into it. There was so much synergy with the band and the crowd, because everyone's focused on the show. Everyone's focused on having a good time. Not like you said, showing everybody where you're at, showing everybody what you're doing, watching the show through the screen of your cell phone. You're actually, rocking out. You're not distracted. And I tell you, when a crowd is into a show, it is so much better for the performance and so much better for the experience, because it's just, everyone's out there, clapping along, jumping up and down, not being distracted by whatever. And I enjoyed that. And I've enjoyed the 4 times I've seen Blackberry Smoke. Let's dive into the album here. I know you've done a review, and let's start out with the things that you noticed, the things that kind of drew you into the record. Well,
obviously, having seen the Find the Light tour in 2018, when they were out with Tyler Bryant and the Shakedown. Obviously, the material off that album, was a highlight to see, with high definition and all the bells and whistles. And then, just the interplay between all the members, and then, they have the extra guests up there with the Blackberries and Benji Shanks and Preston Holcomb on percussion, and one of the things I really, really, really enjoyed, I love, the covers that they throw in. And so, they threw in Space Captain by Joe Cocker, and Black Crowes later, covered it as well. And I really loved their version of that. It's just kind of a trippy, fun tune, and it was added onto the concert film as a bonus track. I think it's a bonus track also on the CD too. But I just really enjoyed all the new material. The only thing I'm upset about is the lack of material off their debut album, Not Left Ain't No Crime. Because that's when I got into them. So I always love when I see stuff off that album. Unfortunately, it kind of seems to be forgotten, sometimes. So hopefully next time they'll put some material off that.
Yeah,
But other than that, it's a gorgeously, the people, the company that did that, filmed it and everything. The edits aren't all jumpy and, like hyper, freaked out. It's real smooth and, high definition, and the sound quality is amazing. And the band was on fire that night, as they pretty much are every night. But, the homecoming shows, it seemed to be a really, really cool experience. Hopefully I can get down to Atlanta next fall for the 2020 homecoming. I'd really like to do those in the ones they have in May out at the Shed in Marysville, Tennessee, the Brothers and Sisters reunion. Because people come from all over the world for those. I think those would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things that motivated me about listening to this record and knowing that they've done this now. This was their 6th homecoming show. And
yeah, this is 6 years they've done it.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, I got to get down on one of these things, man. I got to experience Blackberry Smoke with hardcore Blackberry Smoke fans, like in one room, just, rocking out. And that is on my bucket list. I do want to do that because I just think that, there's not a lot of frills with Blackberry Smoke. It's just playing music and playing it very well, and the songs that they have are all great. I don't think they've ever released a bad song, like songs. I mean, but that's just, me being a huge fan, but very rare do I like a band and, there's always a couple songs where I'm like, it's okay. I could just put one of the records on and be completely happy for the rest of the day listening to it over and over again and not skipping through anything. They're that good of a band, and they're that good of a live band.
Yeah.
We make mention on The Hook Rocks a lot about going to see bands that aren't charging $100 plus, especially for nosebleed seats.
Motley Crue, Def Leppard.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, Motley Crue, Def Leppard. Who are they?
Yeah.
But they, you go to a show, the House of Blues tickets, I forget what they were. I don't think they were probably more than like $30. And you get to see them. You got to see, that's the other thing too. They always take out great acts with them. You saw them with Tyler Bryant, which I'm totally jealous, even though I've seen Tyler Bryant twice. But they always take out good acts. You're always going to see great bands with Blackberry Smoke. You're not going to break the bank going to see them, and you're going to have a good time. And I don't know why stuff like that doesn't resonate more with rock fans. I don't know if it's just this attention to go see the big names with the big dollars and say you saw them and whatnot. I don't know. That doesn't really attract me. I want to go see good music. I want to see a good band, and I want to see something different every night. And Blackberry Smoke provides all of that every time.
Testify.
Yeah, so you mentioned the covers that were part of the set list at these shows. I'm trying to remember the songs that I saw them play while out on the road, especially the one at the House of Blues. I know they had Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick at the show in Rockford that I saw, and they did "I Want You to Want Me." I know they've brought, yeah, that was a great moment too. And I know they brought Ida May up for the encore. I know they brought a member up of the record company on for the encore. So they do a lot of that, which is really cool, and that's not done enough anymore. But how did you feel the presentation was? I mean, you saw the DVD. Was it a good representation of what they're like live?
Oh, yeah. It captured it from beginning to end, from the first note to the last note. I really think Stevie Wonder and a deaf guy would have to be filming them and recording them professionally to not capture it. There's some photogenic gents, that's for sure. So I don't know how else to word it, but yeah, it's a really, really, really well done, beautifully captured audio and visual experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a big fan of their Live at Georgia Theater release and the Leave a Scar in North Carolina, and this one topped it. This one really topped it.
What's the difference for this one as opposed to the other live recordings that they've released?
For me, it would probably be a broader scope of material, because I'm trying to think. Live at Georgia Theater came out, I'm probably going to be wrong, I think 2011, maybe 2013. And then Leave a Star was 2014, 2015. I could be wrong. I'm probably way off. So they had a lot more material to choose from. So you get a broader scope of what they've done. And obviously being the Road Dogs that they are, playing 250 shows a year, it's hard to believe, but they get better. They're like a fine wine. They get better with age, And then the injection of like Preston and Benji into the band, whether they're full-time members or not, I mean, they're out with the band pretty much all year long. And so that thickens up the recipe, thickens up the stew, I guess you could say, and just adds to their sound. Or sometimes you add, I remember in 2010 or 2009 when they added Brandon, on piano and keyboards. And I've always loved, piano and keyboards, in a band from when Richie Costin had Owen Shirebaum playing with him, or, the Allman Brothers or whoever. I always like the sound, but sometimes it can suck. It doesn't sound right. And so I was, kind of leery of it. And I went out to Nashville and seen them for my birthday in May of 2010. And it was one of probably within the first month that Brandon was playing with them, I think. And, I was kind of leery going into it, and he killed it. And the band sounded that much better, and then now you have Benji and Preston up there, and it just takes it to a whole nother level, and then you throw on, like the Black Betties, that's on this film release, and it just adds a whole new element to it. It'd be really cool if they would have filmed, I don't know, maybe they did, but professionally filmed this year's release where they had the horn section up with them, during Believe You Me. I've seen the stuff on YouTube of it, and it's insane. I mean, what's next, an orchestra? I mean, I wouldn't complain.
Well, they did try to mix it up a little bit at the beginning of the year with the acoustic, tour, where they kind of stripped everything down and did more of a intimate performance with that.
Oh, I'd love to see it professionally filmed.
Yeah,
DVD of that too.
I thought it was fantastic. And also then to see them twice, playing their regular show, their normal show, it's a nice contrast to kind of compare the both of them to see what the differences are. Do they play that many shows per year? I mean, you mentioned 250. Is that a yearly thing for them?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yep, they pretty much play all year long, except for pretty much they take the majority of December off, to spend with their families, and usually that's when they go in and record a new studio album.
Yeah.
So, but so yeah, usually, they do a few sporadic shows in December, and like they're, I think they're finishing up the year down in Florida with a run.
Yeah, I think they're doing a show with Bishop Gunn. They're doing a show with a band from Mississippi called Bishop Gunn that is one of my favorite newer bands out there. And again, Blackberry Smoke, having a great band, a great up-and-coming band playing with them, which I really think is a testament to them because, as you know, I bitch, piss, and moan about that all the time. And I don't want to get too much into it because this is a Blackberry Smoke episode, but my thoughts on the Motley Crue Def Leppard tour and how there's not one up-and-coming band on that tour. And then when you see Blackberry Smoke basically expose me to two bands this year, Ida May and the record company, and then they're going to play with Bishop Gunn down in Florida and expose other people to them. Kudos to them, man. That's how it should be done. That's something that doesn't happen anymore, and it's just incredibly disappointing that more bands don't do that. But again, I can't say enough of how awesome that is. And the people who are going to that New Year's show, I think it's 2 nights. I think they're doing an acoustic set on the 29th or something like that, and then they're doing 2 shows, or maybe it's 1 acoustic show and then 1 regular show. I don't know, but I think Bishop Gunn's playing with them for 2 nights, and those people going to the shows, down there in Florida to see him, you're in for a great surprise because Bishop Gunn can really bring it.
Yeah, couldn't go to Florida for New Year's.
Yeah, I got, that's one of these days I'm just going to quit my job and just start touring with people, just start following them. I don't know.
That's fun to do.
Yeah. But, they do a lot of shows per year, and that's why they're so tight. That's why they're so good. Like you said moments ago, the more you play with each other, the more you know someone, and they've been doing it for years now, it's seamless. It just seems so effortless. And that's really what it was, especially when I saw him with the acoustic set. I took my son to one show, and I took my buddy. After I took my son to the one show in, I think it was Waukegan, Illinois, the next night they were playing in Rockford, or maybe the following night, or maybe they had a day off in between. I don't know. But I called my buddy the next morning. I'm like, dude, what are you doing tonight? And he's like, I don't got anything going on. And I'm like, we're going to see Blackberry Smoke in Rockford. We're going up there. And he said it, we walked out. He's like, man, that's so seamless. It's so effortless that it's beautiful. There's a beauty in it.
Yeah, it's not like they're, it's like we talked about earlier with, the same stage wraps and the same, played the same way. I mean, it just flows, effortlessly, it seems, but they're just super tight.
Yeah.
And they go off into little jams and stuff, and sometimes bands, when they go off jamming, it's just an unnecessary wing fest, I think. But they're jams just groove.
Yeah.
And then they throw in they throw in some Zeppelin here or there, the Outlaws, or, whoever, in their, Bob Marley in the middle of their jams. Then right back into, the song they started, and it's cool. I mean, they're tight musically. It's just, as I say, I hashtag a lot of my posts about them. Hashtag the best band in the land. That's, in my opinion.
They're up there. They're certainly up there for me too as well. Them touring a lot is pretty much the way it works now. Bands can't afford to take a year off and kind of just relax and take it back. They, once you're committed to touring, you have to constantly do it. You have to record songs in between breaks, or take a month and a half off to do a new record. But you're writing while you're touring. You're probably working things out during sound checks, or you're probably trying stuff out if this works or that works. So when you go into the studio, you're not creating something from scratch because that costs money. So you're pretty much ready to go when you go in, and then you do your 150 to 250 shows a year. I know when I spoke to Nick Reese from Joyous Wolf a few months back, he made mention that they did 130 some shows, which is a lot for a debut EP, for a new band just coming out of the clubs, right? That's a lot of shows for a new band, but that's going to benefit them. It's going to make them better, and that ultimately is better for the fans because you're going to be getting more of a polished product as they get better and as they get older. But, the downside is for the actual band and the people in it is they don't have a lot of time with their family. They're on the road. They're making money because that's how you make money now, and you got to keep putting out new music to support the tours that you go on, and it's a cycle. It's hard to get off that cycle these days because of the way the music industry is.
Yeah.
So
I can remember back in the old days, and Blackberry Smoke was swimming in the van with a couple roadies, and and they played even more shows then than they do now. In some shithole places. Oh my word.
Yeah.
Some dive clubs. So
no,
it's nice to see where they're at now.
I've seen a fellow Georgia boy one time. I saw him at the House of Blues, and I think the House of Blues is probably like a 1,500 barn, right? It's probably no more. I don't think it's more than 1,500. And then the next probably 3 nights later, I drove with a buddy of mine. Same guy I drove to Rockford to see Blackberry Smoke. We saw him outside of Bloomington, Indiana, at a small bar with probably 60 people. And it was packed. It was a small, tiny bar, but, you go from like the House of Blues to, the local pub or the village pub in the next town over. And, it's cool to see bands in an intimate setting like that, but it's also cool when you see them rise through that, right, and be able to play different places, play small theaters, and be successful at doing it. What are your, outside the covers and everything, what are your highlights of the record? What do you think was the strongest moments?
I really liked Flesh and Bone. That song is it's a dirty groove. It's just distorted. The guitar sounds distorted, and not technically. I'm not a musician, so I get the technical terms wrong. But it's just a dirty, grungy groove. And for some reason, I went away from it all. I like it on the record and stuff, and the acoustic sessions, the Southern Ground sessions that they did a version of that song. And to me, it just kind of seemed to, overplayed the wrong word or whatever, but I really enjoyed, the presentation on this concert film of it. It gave me a whole new love for that song. And I believe that's one of the songs that Charlie co-wrote with Keith from Buck Cherry. So it'd been kind of cool to see Keith get up there and do that with him there on the film. But that one came across really well. But all the new material that they did, I'll Find a Light on it. You know, that was probably the highlight of the whole thing for me, was just how well all the new material, you know, like Sleeping Dogs, and that always goes over well. I wish they'd put Freedom Song back in. You know, that was always a highlight. And, you know, they play it in select places now, but, you know, that would have been nice to see on there. And of course, you know, stuff off Bad Luck. But, you know, mainly, you know, the new material, you know, or the newer material was the highlights for me. I wish I had the track listing in front of me, because, you know, it would jog a memory. Or even my review, I should have printed it out.
I really liked Medicate My Mind.
Yeah.
That was a great version that they did on the live record. Run Away From It All, I've liked since I first heard it. I went through Run Away From It All one night, and it was their Jam in the Van episode, and I put that on a repeat.
Oh, yeah.
I put that on a repeat. I swear to you, I listened to it for 3 hours straight, over and over again.
Nice.
I have a problem. I am not right in the head when I do stuff like that. You know, like what other I've done that with other songs too, where a song will just capture me and not let me go, and I just listen to it, and it doesn't bother me. And then the next day I'll take the CD and I'll get in the car, because I still have a CD player in my car, and I'll just listen to it, you know, over and over again. And when I get that into a song, like I did with that one, it's hard for me to get away from it. It really is.
Yeah, I did that today. I was out running errands, and I took along Find a Light with me. The first time, the second time I took Like an Arrow, but the song, I've got this song off of Find a Light. I could just sit there with that thing on loop for an hour. You know, and it comes from, you know, the stuff that I was going through when that album came out, and, you know, health issues and stuff, and just being down in the dumps. And first time I heard that song, I mean, it welled me up, you know. So it always, you know, has a real special meaning to me. And, you know, I'd met, you know, a really, really great friend at that time, and Valerie. Hello, Val, if you're listening to this, you know, and that's kind of our song, you know. Because she was going through a lot of issues in her personal life as well at the time. And I remember it was like, you need to check this song out. It'll hit you in the feelers, you know. So that's our song, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, I could listen to that thing on loop.
I have the same type of connection. So I always look for that connection when I'm listening to music. And sometimes I like something, and I'll connect with it on a surface level, right? I like the music, and I'm into it, and I like it. But then there's those moments where you connect with it on a real personal level, right? And when I was going through divorce, how long have I been divorced now? 12 years, going on 13 years. My soundtrack for me during my divorce and post-divorce was Butch Walker, Sycamore Meadows, another Georgia guy, right? And his music, even the albums that he released after that, in the few years after my divorce, were basically the soundtrack to me growing through that period, right? Growing as a person, becoming a different person, being a single dad, you know, raising a kid who at the time was 2 years old, and just having that music there as a form of release and a form of comfort while you deal with a major change in your life. Now that I've been divorced now for going on 13 years, Blackberry Smoke has given me that personal connection. And the personal connection that I have with it is, now that I'm settled in with my life, my son is now a teenager. Oh
God.
Yeah. Shit, right? So
Doom.
every day. But now that I have a teenager and he's getting more independent, and I've settled in to my life post-divorce, you know, it's been over a decade. Blackberry Smoke's music and their songs have connected with me with the moment I'm at in my life, where I'm at in my journey. And over the last year, their music has really, I don't want to say guided me, but kind of like Butch Walker, assisted me in my everyday journey in life and in getting through things and adapting to things. You know, some of the words and the lyrics really do hit you, you know. Maybe not maybe not like well up like some songs do, like the song you have, you know, but just like, wow, that makes me feel like exactly what I'm going through right now, or that's exactly the perspective I have in my life. And it's really cool when an artist is able to do that, and not just on one song, but like on several. And, you know, thank you to Blackberry Smoke, because they really have, especially this past 18 months to 2 years, have really been, you know, part of my journey with the personal connection I have with their music. And I've connected with things all throughout my life, you know, whether it was with Pete Yorn, whether it was with Van Halen, you know, when I was younger, or whatever, you know, whoever it was. I've always been able to have that connection to someone or a couple different artists at the same time. And it's a really cool experience when that happens.
Well, you know, and you just triggered, maybe that's the wrong word to use. You triggered something. Oh my God, you triggered me. But I went through my divorce in 2003, and I remember I got Bad Luck Ain't No Crime, Blackberry Smoke's debut album, probably, a month or so before, you know, the shit hit the fan with my, you know, soon-to-be ex-wife. And, you know, I loved it from the get-go. And then, you know, like you said, that album, Bad Luck Ain't No Crime, was kind of my soundtrack through the divorce and, you know, everything that came after it. And it's kind of weird because the ex-wife loved it too, you know, and to this day, you know, 16 years later, 16 years later, she went on with her life and remarried multiple times. But she'll occasionally, you know, shoot me a, you know, text message, and, you know, like she was on vacation this last summer, and she's like, hey, I'm somewhere out in North Carolina, I do believe. Hey, I'm going to see Blackberry Smoke. And unfortunately that night the concert got rained out. They were out with Tedeschi trucks, but, you know, it's just kind of weird, you know, when you said that. It was like, yeah, I went through that with Bad Luck, you know, especially like, because at that time I had people throwing all sorts of, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, as I was going through the whole, you know, hair pulling process of going through a divorce, as you're well aware of. You know, it's not an easy thing. And then, you know, everybody's, you know, you need to do it like this, you need to deal with it like this. And, you know, the song Scare the Devil off that album, where, you know, you can take your good advice and shove it up your ass, you know, because in the race of life, I'm always going to come out last. That song and that lyric, you know, if I was going to have a grave with a tombstone on it, I'd probably have that on it. You know, that song and that lyric is always, you know, it's my all-time favorite Blackberry Smoke tune. But, you know, when you said that going through the divorce and Butch Walker, you know, it's kind of like the soundtrack through it, and, you know, help pull you out of it. And, you know, it really made, you know, put the light bulb above my head. And, you know, that Bad Luck Ain't No Crime was the same way with me back through that experience. It's amazing how bands do that. You know?
Yeah.
You hear a song and it takes you back to a certain moment in time.
It does. It does. Music is a time machine, you know?
Yeah.
I saw Butch Walker 2 months after my divorce. And I had known of Butch because of the Marvelous Three, and he was in the South Gang band, or, you know, the band South Gang in the early 90s. And I know my old roommates were huge Marvelous Three fans, and I always heard the name, and I, for whatever reason, never listened to the music, right? And my buddy had an extra ticket for his show at the House of Blues. It was the Sycamore Meadows show. And I heard the song Vessels, and I heard the song Here Comes the, which is about splitting up. Both those songs are about splitting up. And I'm in the crowd, and like, it just like went right through me. Like, wow, like this is totally what I went through, totally what I'm going through. And I was like, wow, this is the guy for me right now. He's going to help me on my journey through this and get me through this. And he did, man. I mean, and that's why I'm such a like a hardcore Butch fan, and that's why I've become such a hardcore Blackberry Smoke fan. And you know, the bands that I really do talk about a lot, those are the ones that have connected with me somewhere, you know, whatever I'm going through my life, and have connected with me on that personal level. But yeah, it's great when that happens, because, you know, it's almost like a therapist that kind of, you know, is talking to you while you're going through something.
Yeah.
And they can kind of, you know, figure it out with the help of music and the help of good lyrics, and make you feel something. And Blackberry Smoke, Butch Walker have both done that for me. Coincidentally, they're both from Georgia. I don't know if that has something to do with it. I don't know. But speaking of this, before I forget, I made mention of this on my Twitter feed. How cool was it? Because I know Butch is putting out a double album next year, and Blackberry Smoke's working on a record right now. And Tuck Smith.
That's the rumor.
Yeah, that's the rumor. But Tuck Smith, who used to be in a band called Biters, who's also from Georgia, he's got a band called Tuck Smith and the Lonely Hearts. How cool would it to do like the All Georgia tour with those three acts?
Yeah.
That would be like incredible. And if you're listening right now, Blackberry Smoke, you don't have to pay me for my suggestion. You don't have to like, hey, you know, we'll give you something. I don't need any money. Just make it happen. And I'll go to multiple shows, and I'll be happy. And that's all I need. I just need, you know, I just want to be like, wow, this is the greatest thing that's ever been done. 3 bands from Georgia, 3 kick-ass artists, bands, whatever, playing in one night, and I get to see it and kick back and rock out and enjoy it. I'm not asking much. I'm just making a suggestion, you know?
Well, if I could throw an extra one in there, there's another band from Georgia as well that's coming out with a new record next year, supposedly. And they could add, you know, a 4th one, and that would be Jackal.
Jackal?
You know?
Jackal is a little more edgier, though, right? They're a little more edgier. Yeah. I mean, you know, I agree that Jackal kicks ass. Maybe like, I don't know. Hey, I'm not going to complain. If they throw Jackal in there, I certainly won't complain about it, because I would be like, that's even more kick-ass. But they're like more, I mean, they're the only band that's going to be up there with a chainsaw. So,
yeah.
You know,
maybe they could do, you know, like a jam session, get, you know, a couple guys from each band up there with their own chainsaws.
Yeah, everybody brings a chainsaw up there and freaks everybody out in the crowd. Maybe have like a, you know, like a fake prosthetic or something like that. That'd be really interesting. But no,
yeah, just take Eddie Trunk up on the stage and saw him in half. Anyway,
there it is. 43 minutes in, Crash makes his Eddie Trunk comment.
Yep. It's just an idea. Just throwing that out there.
Once again, Crash expressing his ever-growing love for Eddie Trunk.
Yes.
You know,
and speaking of Eddie Trunk, have you seen the Stuart Trunk Twitter?
Yes, I have. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing.
I saw that and about lost it. I have the notifications on for when Stuart hits a tweet.
Did
my good friend Stuart?
Did we talk about? I think we did the last time we talked about Blackberry Smoke on the show. We talked about the interview Eddie did with Charlie, and just how, in our opinion, this is strictly our opinions. You know, this is not, you know, but just how out of touch, you know, he is with certain bands and what they want to do and what they want to accomplish. I think it was about trying to get the record deal.
Major label.
Major label.
Yeah, major label.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
I think he just wants to add that to his resume. I got a major record label, man. Look at me.
Yeah.
That's off.
I don't know.
Sorry.
No, it's your
They don't need it.
They really don't. I don't know how much that's going to change.
Nope.
I mean, maybe more upfront money. Maybe they won't have to tour as much. I don't know. It all depends on how the deals are structured, obviously. But, I mean, why? I mean, they have freedom to do whatever they want to do. They can bring any band they want on tour with them. They make great music. They don't need some guy telling them what to sound like and what to do. So, there's positives and negatives to all of it, but being that they're not a band that's just starting out and already have a pretty established career with a pretty established audience, I don't really see the need for them to go that route, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, if it isn't broke, why trunk it?
Yeah, so...
And you're right. I mean, they're established. They have their audience. They're constantly building on to it worldwide. They can do what they want to do. Why would you want to give the man control?
Yeah.
They're doing pretty good for themselves. I think they might be onto something.
Yeah, I think they might be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple albums, maybe a tour with Butch and Tuck Smith, then they'll hit it big.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the little upstarts out of Georgia might have a career.
Yes. So with the live album coming out, them having, the last studio album they did was absolutely strong too. More of the same, you think, in the future with Blackberry Smoke? Any particular direction and changes you think with their music, or do you think you're just going to stick with what's working? Let's keep going.
Well, just with all their records, I think none of their records sound the same, but it always has that touch of familiarity to it.
Always sounds like Blackberry Smoke.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they'll just continue to, I hate to use this word, mature, and get better, but it'll be a new adventure, but it's it's always home, it's familiar. I don't see them running off and doing a death metal album or a polka album. Who knows, they might.
Or a death metal polka album.
Yeah.
Which would be a whole new genre.
Well, they've got their influences from the country to the bluegrass to the rock to the blues, everything that they weave together and their little sonic stew, and they'll just continue down that highway they're on, and I'm sure there'll be some surprises there, but nothing too drastic.
That's one of the things that really can't be overstated with Blackberry Smoke, is the fact that they do pull from so many different audiences. You have, the country fan feels comfortable going to their show. The rock fan feels comfortable going to their show. So it's really an interesting line that they keep themselves on, where they don't go too far one way and they don't go too far the other way. They do a great job of just appeasing both sides of that fence. And that's pretty tough to do, right? Because usually, after a while, a band will kind of go in one direction, maybe circle back after a couple albums. But, every album they do gives all their fans stuff to chew on, stuff to enjoy. It's not like it's a country album or it's a rock album. It's such a unique, I shouldn't say unique, but they just do it very well. They do.
It's Blackberry Smoke.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? That's a perfect way to describe it, Crash. It really is. It's unique to Blackberry Smoke because there's not a lot of bands, that can do that. I mean, Southern rock bands are rock bands, right? Country bands are country bands, and Blackberry Smoke kind of like balances that so perfect and so well. It's great. It really is.
Well, like that T-shirt they have. I don't know if they still sell it. They had a T-shirt. It says, two rock for country, two country for rock. They're just Blackberry Smoke.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think you can. I don't think you can, and I don't think they would like to be categorized. You know, they're a band.
And a damn good one too. You know, they really are. They do it well. I look forward to their new material, another tour. They're a band that I have to go see every time they come in close to the Chicago area. It's always a good time.
Yeah, I'm still kicking myself. I didn't get to go see them in February.
Where were they at? How close were they to you in February?
Oh, an hour maybe, but I was. That's when I ended up with that concussion, a really bad concussion, like a couple days before, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, you're not going." You know, it was just like I was busy and dealing with headaches and stuff, and I didn't think being crammed up against a barricade with 1,000 people behind me and the PA and all that would be too too good. But I mean, it was hard enough to get in the vehicle and just go. You know, I've had that happen a couple times where something happened. What was it, 2003? I went to Wichita. I was living in Waukene, so we're talking about a 250-mile drive. But my parents were living in Wichita. I went to go see them, and I was going to go see Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And my mom asked me to put the tea kettle on the stove before I left. And I was like, okay, She had one of them stupid stoves where you have to turn it and it clicks, and then it'll ignite. And so I'm sitting there and it's not doing anything. And I'm like looking down, what the hell, man, it's working. Next thing I know, it clicked and ignited and flashed, burnt all my facial hair off, burnt off a bunch of my hair. And I couldn't see. I literally thought I was blind. I mean, I hit the floor like a sack of shit. My dad comes running in, what the hell happened? He just saw a big flash, and they had to take me to the ER, they, I don't know what they put in my eyes, but I was starting to see better. It was a little spotty. And the doctor's like, yeah, if I was you, I'd stay out of the light for a while. And I'm like, well, I got tickets to see Trans-Siberian Orchestra tonight. You better sell them, because you go, you're going to end up blind. And I'm like, why? And he's like, I know what they're about. He goes, all the lasers and stuff, you get hit with one of them, you'll never see again. I'm like, oh, what is this CPS phone? But just another one of the freak accidents or, cost me a concert, but whatever. That's his life.
We should do a show on injuries or illnesses that have cost us from going to see a concert.
Yeah.
Oh man, I missed
cracked in the head with the beer bottle of the show.
I missed
kind of wrecking your whole life.
Yeah, well, you told me about. Yeah, you said about that. You had to get stitches, but I just missed in early part of November, end of November. I missed Sloan for a Canadian band, and I missed Pete Yorn on his tour in the same week because I had something going on, and I missed Crowbot in the summer. I missed Priest in the summer. I think about some of the shows 4 years ago or 4.5 years ago when Rush did their final tour. I missed that because I was sick. Not a happy camper, but whatever. Anyway, man, what?
Damn it, life.
Yeah, right. What are your final thoughts on the newest, latest, and greatest Blackberry Smoke live release?
Highly recommend it for anybody that enjoys a good rock show. I mean, it's beautifully captured, pristine audio and video. And it's just a damn good time. I mean, you feel like, you're sitting in your living room, you feel like you're there, you feel the emotion of the songs, vibing with the audience. There's some awesome, audience shots, and participation and like them. Oh, I missed a big one with I Ain't Got the Blues. I mean, when you hear that crowd singing along to that song, no matter what venue you're at, it brings that sense of community that, only music can really bring, I mean, that's, to me, that song is like, I don't know if anthem is the right word, but I mean, it sure brings everybody together. And, you know, everybody makes a joyful noise. You know, so can't believe I forgot that one earlier.
Yeah, you know, those are always great moments when the crowd gets involved and is singing along to the song, and it just, you know, makes you feel connected to everybody in the room and the band on stage, and those are always awesome moments to look back and have a memory of.
Yeah, yeah, they nailed it with this one, man. And hats off to whoever filmed it and edited it. You know, all the key grips and everybody that helped make it happen, from the band down to the crew, and, you know, Doc and John Farrell, their sound guy, and Thumper, their light guy, and, you know, the video crew and the audio crew, and, you know, management and the crowd. You know, it's an experience. It's one I'd highly recommend. Turn it up to 11.
I agree. I have listened to it now 2 or 3 times. It's in my car. I do flip it on frequently. It is a great live record. Like Crash says, it does capture the essence of Blackberry Smoke. Of course, nothing is better than to seeing them live right in front of you. If you have a chance next year, or if you have a chance to get down in Florida for these last end of the year shows, do it. Don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to go see them. Again, you're not going to break the bank like you would at some of these other big summer tours. You're going to see a good band, a great band, and you're going to enjoy yourself. You're going to hear great music, great songs. I've seen a lot of shows. I usually go to probably 20 to 30 shows a year. They are in my top 5 live bands of all time. They are great.
If you're a fan of the band, or you're just getting into them, check them out and enjoy them. You go on Facebook, there's a really cool community there called the Brothers and Sisters, you know, fan club, Blackberry Smoke. And I mean, it's people from all over the world. And I mean, just throw on a topic there about Blackberry Smoke. Keep it about Blackberry Smoke, unless it's on Monday, and you got Music Monday where you can throw any band up there. Don't get into politics. But, you know, it's an amazing community. They, you know, of the fans. And, you know, it's really cool. You know, I guess, I mean, I'm not a Deadhead, but I can only imagine it's obviously on a smaller scale than, you know, what the Deadheads had going. But, you know, the Brothers and Sisters of Blackberry Smoke, you know, you go to a show and, you know, you meet new friends, and, you know, tailgating and meeting up before the show and bonding with people at the show. It's a really cool communal experience. You know, so it's like church, but a lot better.
It's a perfect way to describe it, and perfect way to end the conversation. Check out the latest Blackberry Smoke album, a live album, Live at the Tabernacle. And go see them live when they come back here and they come back around in 2020 with their new album. Go check them out. I promise you will enjoy it. Thanks again, Crash, for doing this. Always appreciate it. And
you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Once again, this is Jay Scott. This is The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. We're going to do this again. We'll see you tomorrow on the second day of the 12 days of Christmas. It'll be Christmas Eve. Talk again soon. Take care.